You talk about influence, your Puerto Rican upbringing and those strong women, but everything around is influence. I should say the person we listen to the most is ourselves. All of that self-talk. And what if that self-talk is negative?
You've got to take your personal attitude and the effort that you're going to put into your day, and you have to think about how you're going to walk out that door every day.
You know Jim Rohn?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the sayings he talks about, he says, what happens to us all. It's what we do about what happens that makes the difference. And, because two people, identical circumstances, they make different decisions, completely different outcome. Because there's people with worse circumstances that are successful. Today I'm joined by Jason Soto, founder and CEO of Vision Vegas, one of the key people shaping the future of entertainment, technology, and economic development here in Las Vegas. He helped launch Las Vegas's first virtual production studio that's been used for Hollywood films and major music video production. Beyond the studio world, Jason, he's worked closely with the state of Nevada to help position Las Vegas as a serious hub for innovation and creative growth. Jason Soto, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Power of Influence. I am here with Jason Soto. I've actually been to Jason's studio. Now, you sold it since that, but it's Vision U, right? Vision U Studios?
View. Yeah, View Studios.
View Studios. But beautiful, beautiful. I know they do like TV shows there and the news and stuff, don't they?
A couple of movies.
Yeah, it's a beautiful...
a couple of feature films with Nick Cage, with Mark Wahlberg. You're wearing Municipal today. Right on. Way to go. And tons of commercials, music videos, yeah, you name it.
Cool. Well, listen, let's back up, Jason. We spoke just a moment ago about Stephen Covey, right? And it was one of the first, because I am a huge fan of personal development. I mean, it absolutely, changed my life. I grew up, I was a blue collar worker, high school education, learning disability, have dyslexia. And, I was working in a factory thinking this was my life. Right. And then I got introduced to personal development and everything started to shift. I began to look at everything differently. Right. And I just became I turned my car into a university on wheels. So did you, tell us a little bit about your, your childhood, your upbringing, because I know you're extremely successful now, but what was Jason as a child and what type of environment were you? Because we talk about influence, right? Everything around us is influence. So what were those early influences? What was that childhood like?
Man, when I tell the story, I always will tell people that I was raised by a lot of powerful Puerto Rican women.
Okay.
My mother had me at a very young age. I'm actually a unicorn. I'm born and raised here in Las Vegas. I was born here at Las Vegas General Hospital. And my father was a single mom, and my father's side of the family came from Puerto Rico to New York, New York to Vegas in the 60s. And it was funny. My grandmother was the matriarch of the family, and she said, they're making money in the desert. And she drug, multiple Puerto Rican families out here, Dominican families, and a lot of them came out here and started businesses. They worked. My grandmother opened the first real true spa and salon at the top of the Sahara Hotel back in the day in the 60s, late 60s. And so growing up, my grandmother, says, hey, we'll take the baby, we'll take me. We'll get you a job. They juiced her in over at the Circus. It was her first job. And I was raised around a lot of really powerful go-getter women. My father was very focused in his career. I wasn't around him a lot when I was younger. But I think it's an absolute blessing because it's what I've become today.
Right. The work ethic, the character, all began to form in that childhood with those very driven Puerto Rican women influence. Yeah.
And us Puerto Ricans, we're like, we're going to make a statement. If we walk in a room, we're making a statement. If we decide that we're going to open a business, we're going to make change. If we want to be in philanthropy, we're going to do something that's important. We do the same I say we approach life the same way that we approach cooking, with passion. Right. We love to cook. Mm-hmm. But that really shaped my my life today because I have such high regard for women and powerful women, Latinas, everyone. But what I was taught was always be honest with yourself, right? And always be honest with others because we're imperfect. right? We all came into this world imperfect, right? So, knowing that, you just have to own it, and you're not going to do everything.
I think that's such of a key point there, to be honest to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because we can, I think, you talk about influence. Your Puerto Rican upbringing and those strong women, but everything around is influence. But the people that we're listening to, the person we listen to the most is ourself. All of that self-talk. And what if that self-talk is negative?
Right. What would happen with you in your successful career if you always stayed negative?
Yeah. I mean, you can't get a positive life out of a negative attitude. And it's just, you can see it around you. You can see people that just, I kind of joke about it, right? I say there's two types of people in the world: those that brighten a room when they come in, and those that brighten a room when they leave. Right?
Exactly. That's a great saying. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, you can just, there's some people, they're just miserable, and and misery loves company.
Absolutely. And you can see that, you see it in employee cultures with cliques of people. And, my daughter recognized that in school very well. I have an 18-year-old daughter that just graduated, and she recognized that as well. And I always encourage her to be around positive people, because positive people are getting things done.
Yeah,
Right?
and negative
making
people are just
change.
making excuses and
Why they can't
falling
get it
into a
done.
victim mode, because there's another, because I know you're into the personal development too, but you know Jim Rohn?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the sayings he talks about, he says, what happens to us all. It's what we do about what happens that makes the difference. And, because two people, identical circumstances, they make different decisions, completely different outcome. And that's where I think a lot of people need to start when they're looking at their life, and it's not what they want, and it's not, is they need to think about the decisions they're making, because there's people with worse circumstances that are successful.
That's right.
Right?
Very, very much so. Very much so. When you had referenced Stephen Covey, and I remember an illustration, and still to this day, that Stephen Covey put up, and he talked about the word responsible. Remember when he kind of broke that down? And every person has the ability to respond. So when you're looking at that word responsible, right, it's, you're able to respond in any given way, right? If somebody cuts you off in traffic or any of those things, that guy may be on his way to the hospital because his wife's having a baby, right? Or you don't know what's going on in their world. And I have taken that philosophy about everything, because we live around sometimes a lot of negativity. People are influenced by social media. So you've got to take your personal attitude and the effort that you're going to put into your day, and you have to think about how you're going to walk out that door every day.
Yeah, and then to that same point, I see people, and I've got friends like this, and I'll just say, why are you letting other people affect your attitude so much? Right? I mean, because you, just like you say, you have the ability to make the decision on how you want to respond to that. Yeah. If you're going to get angry or you're going to, I remember hearing this story, because everybody, like you say, responsible. Everybody says they're responsible, right? But then they follow, I'm responsible, and then they follow it, but with this big but this happened. I'm responsible, except this happened. And until you take complete and total responsibility, you're not. So the saying goes, you need to get rid of that big but, right?
You need to get rid of that big but. Exactly. Yeah. And you're right, because when those people still have an excuse lingering in the background all the time, then they're not going to be able to get out of their own mind in a lot of cases. And I think over the years, I used to be that way. I used to think, well, if I didn't accomplish something, well, there's an excuse for it, right? And one of the things that I adore about you is you're a contributor, and you can't be a contributor. You can't influence others. You can't train well, right? You've trained thousands of salespeople in your lifetime, and when you think about how you can contribute, you can't have those excuses, because you've got to, either you're somebody that deposits in others, right? Or somebody that withdraws in others. They just,
yeah. What's that one saying? You can either make excuses or make money, but you can't make both.
Exactly. And we like making money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I find human behavior really fascinating. Just observing people. I like to watch people watch, but just even observing people in different circumstances and the way they react. Like I said, the way they let other people actions, ruin their day. Or, I find things amusing. Like you say, somebody cuts you off in traffic. You don't know what they're doing or whatever, and it may be just who they are. Right? They're, they don't care about the people around them. They're just, they're not, real aware or considerate to others around. But like you said, it could be something happened. They were on their way to the hospital or whatever. Right. But the key is not letting that impact you in a negative way. And because I see it all the time.
Yeah. You just gotta, you gotta brush it off. I joke around because, my old man's like the perfect example of like a corporate hippie, did great in his life, but, always liked the chill side of things and, was a big proponent of cannabis all of his life and everything. He's like, just let it slide, just keep moving forward and keep getting it done. And, I look at that philosophy in a different way and I say, why let other people affect you, right? Why should I let somebody else ruin my day? Exactly. If I don't have to. I already got a good plan for my day. I'm going to go out and accomplish things. I'm going to spread some sunshine everywhere and have a good day and be able to rest my head at the end of the day. And, and a lot of times too, you think about that philosophy of, one of the greatest examples of doing that was Jesus Christ, right? You think about how he continually, contributed and others around him were like, well, why are you contributing to that person? Right? There's always judgment all the time. Right. So you be your own contributor every day. You put that, you
get back what you put in.
You move forward. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it'll always, sometimes you wonder when it will, but right. Karma should come back, but sometimes you think people are escaping it, but
it's going to come back around.
Yeah. Eventually it's going to, take its, deadly blow to you.
Yeah. 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 And I just think, hey, just come in with a positive attitude. If they, if that person wants to be an asshole for the day, there's nothing you can do about what their personality is. Be amused by it, and move on. If you do you, right, then either other people are going to like who you are or they're not.
Another word that you used earlier is passion. Right, you're Puerto Ricans. They live their life with passion. Oh, yeah. Right, but imagine, because that's where I talk about belief a lot. Right, in the world of sales, in the sense that people buy people. Right, it's your passion, your posture, belief, enthusiasm about what it is you're doing that attracts or influences others. Right, when you really believe in something, and I think that highest level of belief is when you have passion about it. Right. And so living life with passion in everything that you're doing is a very exciting way to move through life.
Yeah. You got to do the things you're passionate about. Yeah. Right. And, when you wake up every morning and you're energetic and you're passionate about things, and it's not just, what you're doing for your career, right? What you do in your day to day or how you make a living. But it's about being passionate, my roles, my number one role is to be a father, right? I have 4 beautiful children, 3 boys and a girl. My daughter is still at home, right? So I got to be the best father that I can possibly be, right? I got to be passionate about that, right? Because parenting's an extreme sport anyway. But, at the same time, I'm very passionate about my hobbies. I'm an active skier. Love to be passionate about snow skiing.
Yeah, I know. You just were in Utah, right?
Yeah.
Have you? I'm sure you've been up to Mount Charleston.
Oh, a million times. I used to work up there when I was a kid.
Yeah, Lee Canyon.
Yeah.
28
inches of snow in a
Yeah, and I don't know who took that over, but they've really, added several more lifts and stuff. But people are blown away when you talk about downhill skiing in Las Vegas. They don't realize 45 minutes away, it's a beautiful little, mountain.
That's why I think Vegas is one of the best cities in the world to live in. I absolutely love it here. We have everything from Lake Mead on one side of the valley all the way up to, skiing and Pine Break on the other side of the valley. And in the summertime, it's just beautiful to go up there. And then, I was talking about being in Utah. I was 3 hours away in southern Utah at 10,500 foot elevation in a completely different environment. It was great.
Yeah, what's the name of that resort up there?
That's Brian Head.
Brian Head, yeah.
Brian Head.
Brian
Utah
Head.
up there.
Yeah, matter of fact,
Great.
don't they have an association with Lee Canyon
They
where
do,
the
same
tickets
company.
are?
It's I think it's Powder Inc. owns Brian
Okay.
Head and Lee Canyon now, which is great because you buy a pass from one place and you get days at Lee. Like I get 12 days a year at Lee Canyon. So, and that's perfect. But yeah, I do. We talk about being, passionate, right? I've always been passionate in everything I've been engaged in, because if you don't work for an organization, or whether that organization is yours, right, and you've started and you're an entrepreneur, or whether you're a contributor in a corporate environment, if you're not passionate about the direction of that organization or the offering, or
Yeah, find something else to do then. Yeah, because you're really not serving yourself or them if you're not passionate about it. If you don't, And the sad fact is most people, unfortunately, are living their life, the other side. They're not passionate. They're doing it because they have to, or they need to, or it's what they did yesterday, so they have to do it again today. Yeah.
And you see these people like, I hate my job. I'm like, you've been at it for 30 years. Do you not?
Yeah, that sounds insane.
Like the good old days. Like, I've been working at this job for 30 years and I hate it. And I'm like, why didn't you change?
So tell me a little bit about you've had a lot of really incredible success, and so where did that start? I mean, I know it started with the upbringing, but what was your first big win, your first big business or?
My first big win was really in telecommunications. So my old man, chef, restaurant owner. I was destined for culinary world. I got accepted to the Culinary Institute in Hyde Park when I was 17. And I realized I didn't want to be in my father's business. Okay. So I ended up getting a job in telecommunications. And back then, for all you people, we used to pay for long distance phone calls, just so you know.
That's right, we did.
My first job was
and a cell phone was like $1 a minute at one time.
Was bigger than this mic here.
Yeah.
But I had become an engineer and I got assigned. I really understood telecommunications fabric, right, and what happens in fiber optics and light waves and all that. And I picked it up. It was meant to be, and I had the opportunity. I know that you'll remember this. When Whale used to have to dial up to the internet, a big provider was America Online. Well, America Online became so
I still
popular.
actually have an AOL account.
An AOL account? Yeah, me too.
But I've got Gmails too, but I do still have my AOL account.
Yeah. Well, remember when AOL ran out of capacity and no one could get on the internet? Well, our company at the time, NextLink Communications, which was a big Craig McCaw company, they were contracted to increase capacity. So at 24 years old, I built 18 POPs, 18 mini data centers for AOL around the country. And I led the whole thing I as an engineer for the carrier team. And it was great because, we talk about success and early hits. I was bonused. I had a compensation plan built around not only helping design, but deploy it. And AOL would compensate us, and my company was compensating me to see how fast we could get these POPs up and running, right? All this stuff up and running.
So you kind of engineered this.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. So a lot of times when you're working with a corporation, you're under that and you develop something, the intellectual property actually still owns the company. Or were you able to?
No. It was active technology that was out there. This is the early days of Cisco routers and everything else. But the engineering portion of it was how we were utilizing national fiber networks, right, to get from point A to point B to point C.
And the fiber was around back then.
Fiber was around back then.
I mean, the whole thing doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest with you. I mean, I have no idea how someone from the other side of the world can somehow, I don't know what it does in the air and ends up instantaneously redeveloping in your phone. And it just makes I have no idea how that's possible.
It all comes down to the speed of light. Right. The speed of light, right? Which I don't know. Look, Google it right now. It's like 700,000 miles a second or something along those lines, right? So, the so that first hit, and I remember, finishing a project, and I'm down in Phoenix, and I went to go take money out of the ATM because boys were going out that night, my ATM receipt comes out, and it says $93,000. I just went, I didn't know I got paid, right? But the CFO called me in the door the next day, and he goes, "This is the highest commission check that we've ever paid to anyone, including any of our sales team. Like, the sales guy didn't make this much money, but you performed and
Wow.
became Employee of the Year."
And how many years ago was that?
Stuff. Oh man, this was 1998. Yeah.
So that's
Quite some time
40,
ago.
40 years ago
Yeah.
almost.
No. So 98.
88?
30 years ago.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, 100 grand, 90, what is it, 90
Not
something?
bad. Yeah, the 90s.
That's, I
Yeah,
don't know
it
what
was
that would
great.
equate
I
to
was able
today,
get
but
my
it would be
first
in
house
several
and-
100,000.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was, it was just that aha moment, like that my work had paid off for me. Right. And I didn't, when I looked at it, I had a mentor at that time who was, I learned from a lot of old guys in the industry, right? Because when I got into the industry at that time in telecommunications, everything was moving from copper to fiber. So I'm learning from all these old timers that were on copper, and in comes this young kid into MCI and Nortel and everything else, learning everything Lightwave. It was all new, right? Kind of the same way I got into virtual production, right? I had been in broadcast TV and I had done other things like that, but my first entry into filmmaking was big LED walls, right? Wow. So same kind of philosophy back then in telecom. So it was, I think the aha moment was really the fact that, he just said, you just stay focused. Your plan is your plan, and use your personality to get things done. And there were something, I showed up in DC, nothing was ready, and I needed a crew, on a Friday night at 6:00 to work through the weekend, because we said we told that market to be up by Monday. All my gear's there, it's racked, and there's no power, and there's not even power close by. So we had to pull off a pretty big job. And I get on the phone and I kind of sweet talk the GM, and I said, "Listen, first and foremost, I need a couple of days. Secondary, I need you to call your VP of engineering who runs the DC market, and I need access to him. I know it's Friday, it could be kids." So I did. I get on the phone with him, and I was just really honest and, kind of played it cool and said, "Hey man, this is the task I was given. Here's the factors that I'm dealing with. I'm in a pickle. I need your help. You're the only guy that can help me out because you know this market and I don't. But if you get it together," then I go, "I'm paying for a weekend in Vegas on me." And the guy's like, "Really? Weekend in Vegas?" And I went, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, I'll just make phone calls and I'll take care of him." Absolutely. Right. Sure enough, man, that guy got on the phone and there was people there in 45 minutes. There was techs walking through the door, and we got the job done. And he did. He ended up coming out, and I took him to a concert, and we put him up at Caesars, and it was all on my dime. I did that because I'm like, hey, if you're going to go out of your way and take care of me, the best I can do is offer you a cool experience if you get yourself to Vegas. And he did.
Yeah, life is all about how you treat people, right?
That's exactly right.
Right. But I just, even when you're sharing that story, I'm thinking about, hey guys, before we jump back into the episode, which I hope you're enjoying, this podcast is available literally everywhere. Just click the link down below and don't forget to subscribe. Another approach you could have taken, versus, can you help me? I'm really in a pickle here. There's other approaches that would have probably put that person's defense up versus,
Right. I'm the national carrier guy.
yeah, you need to do this. And, and now they're, even if they,
AOL,
yeah, versus getting someone that wants to help you.
Yeah.
Even though it may not be convenient or whatever, but because of the approach and, coming across with, a sense of humility and help, they want to, hey, listen, I can help you out here.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're going to influence somebody to get something done, then you have to be respectful of their time or their scenario, right? The guy could have been at home with kids and family, there could have been a million situations, but at the end of the day, everyone has time, right? There could have been, again, there could have been a million scenarios he was involved with. He could have been going to his kid's practice. He could have been a single guy. I didn't know him, right? But what I knew was I was asking for his time. I was asking for him to dedicate time to me to get something done.
But you didn't have to.
Didn't have to, and still today, I now work in professional sports, and I have to respect the people's time to get things done, right? We want to put on a good show for fans, and we want to do our absolute best to represent the city of Las Vegas. We're asking people for their time, and time's all we got sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about some of this, something that popped into my head is because even in my book, I believe the book is, I call it the new language of influence, because it's coming from a very authentic and a way that you earn influence. Because influence can be granted to someone because of their family, because of a title, because of just having money. But is it real influence, or is it more it's power that's being abused? Right? And so no matter who you are, you don't have to have money to have influence. You don't even have to have great success. But if you're a good person and you try, even like with Rusterfield when we were talking to him, I mean, you can just tell he's coming from a good spot.
Good vibes, good energy, and the world needs more of it with everything that's going on with the way that the kids are growing up today, stuck to their, to their phones and
they don't know how to do anything.
Fake news. They don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, because everything is, there's a button you can push or an app for that. I mean,
my daughter doesn't know how to read an old clock.
Yeah.
You're kidding me. She can't tell time.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. I mean, they should still have to do, that's one of the, it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds, because the youth today are very smart in a lot of areas, but they are completely clueless in, what really work is and understanding things and how they really work.
And putting in the work.
Yeah, well, have to put in the work.
Putting in the work. My daughter, she works at Bagel Mania at Siegel's Bagel Mania on the Strip, and she's their lead hostess. And my office used to be right across the street in the old Bank of America Tower, right? That's where I had my agency. And she finally gets, she becomes, she moves from from being a customer and always being taken care of to now working in a very, very high-paced environment. And she calls me one day from the bathroom, probably 5 days after she started. She's crying. I just can't handle it anymore. There's people, and I said, I calmed her down, talked her off the ledge. 3 weeks later, she feels like she's running the place. She's, she comes home, she's 18, and she's like, these waiters are asking me to phase them out early and this and that and the other. And I got tables and it's an hour and a half away. Like she dug in. And that was the conversation I had with her that night. I'm like, everything you start new, you're going to have a tough time.
That's a really interesting point, because you look at yourself, very successful. I've had a lot of success in my life, but you could take me and put me in something that I don't understand. Something really simple. Maybe I could be a teller, an order taker at McDonald's. And I'm confused as heck. This guy ordered a Big Mac and now he doesn't want the lettuce on it. I mean, what do I do here?
What button is that? You can always tell when you have a new waitress, or a waiter, when they look at the toast system and they're like, point there, it takes them a while, right? Yeah.
But like your daughter, all of a sudden you feel like you're running. It clicks in. If you're paying attention, you're doing the work, and you're going to push through that difficult time where you feel like, I'm never going to get this. I just want to quit.
Right. I think the human nature is everyone wants certainty, right? Certainty that, they're going to do, they got a job, right? But then they're going to do a good job, or they're going to be happy at their job. And you have to manipulate things. You got to work, right? I don't mean to manipulate in a bad way. I mean, manipulate like you got to put in the work, and you got to learn, and you got to learn the system, and you have to learn the people, and you have to understand their different personalities that you're going to deal with when you're dealing with people, because everyone's different. You got introverts, you got extroverts, and I try to explain that to a lot of people, even people that work for me or that worked for me in the past. It's like you got to learn the person first, right? Then you can influence him to get things done. You can't just come in swinging at the fences and knocking glass over, right? You got to be respectful of the other
And
person.
everything takes time. I mean, that's one of the challenges I think with the youth today is because of this, TikTok world we live in, they want everything instantly, right? They're not willing to, forget about, months or days. I mean, we're talking sometimes years. Things take of hard work before the break comes.
Absolutely. Right. They're seeing some guy pulling up in a Lamborghini, opening his trunk with, tons of money in it. Yeah. But what they don't see is that guy's been on social media for a decade. And he has fought every different, corner of the issue of trying to be an influencer or a creator or a DIY person or any of those things long before they see the shiny polished product what they have now. And a lot of times, and you know this too, that curated content is heavily edited. Yeah. There's a lot of mishaps that happen behind the scene. There's a lot of multiple.
And it's a lot of work. I mean, if you're going to be an influence and you're going to stay relevant, and the amount of content and just trying to come up with new stuff. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I see some of these people and the amount of content and some of it is so good. It's so creative. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah. How you pump. Exactly. Right. Guys like us are like, I know more than that kid, and he's got 9 million followers. What's going on here?
But I'm telling you, I mean, but if you're going to be a top influencer and you're going to pour out that content, I mean, it is work. It may look beautiful on the screen, but there was
a lot behind the scenes to get that done, right? And you have a team of editors. Some of these influencers, I know. Excuse me. Mr. Beast, when he's at CES, he's got 4 people with him, right? He's got an audio guy, he's got a video guy, he's got a producer that's usually kind of doing a little bit of crowd control, right? And then one other person that's either an assistant or a coordinator for the next step. But, that's just one single person. It's a great example. He's a top influencer and he's, now turning to other TV products. But that took time. He was a single
he didn't start out with 4 people.
No,
he started out with probably a flip video or something.
Yep.
You remember the flip videos?
Yep. Heck, not even that. It was, oh man, I forget the video streaming network that he really kind of got his start on prior to YouTube. It's a kid's, I don't know if it was Kick or not, but I know he had been on YouTube for quite so many years that no one knew him. Everyone starts at 0. No one opens it up and opens an Instagram handle and has 1 million followers that are real, genuine followers without buying them, right? Yeah, but to me, that's the best part of it is they had to put in the hard work.
So from the tech being in the telecommunication, then what was next?
Tech, then to data center, so I stayed in tech for a while. Data center into internet marketing. I'm in a data center helping build out a large email network. And my buddy goes, man, I'm sending emails to all the AOL users. Again, another AOL story. and he goes, I'm sending like 5,000 emails a month, man. And I was like, whoa. And this is 2002, right? Now we send 5 million a day, right? And he says, yeah, he's like, we build all this stuff. So I decided to look at how they use it. So that he really influenced me and triggered me to get into affiliate marketing and internet marketing, but I had an engineering mind. And I stayed in internet marketing for 14 years. And fast forward, I had an agency with a partner here in Las Vegas, and our internet marketing firm was primarily focused on building mobile apps. Like we'd gotten to that point. We did everything else, right? Media buying and websites and all the other stuff. But we got into mobile apps, and a client of ours, asked me, he says, "Can you build mobile apps in China?" And I was like, "Sure, right?" The answer is yes. The question's how do we get it done? Yeah. And so I went to UNLV. I went to some friends at UNLV and said, I need to create an internship program with Mandarin-speaking students, which we have a ton of Mandarin-speaking students because a lot of families in Asia send their kids to the #1 hospitality school in the world, which is UNLV. And so we have a pretty heavy Mandarin, Mandarin speaking population in UNLV. So I created a program and made a second shift, and we started building mobile apps for small businesses in China. Um, Became very successful very quick. We had two different shifts: customer service, design, but programming is all the same, right? Code is code. So about a year into it, the client calls me back, and this is 2017, and he says, we want to buy your company. And I said, why? Oh, the answer is yes. Question's how. And he says, well, he says, we own 14 companies around the world. They're all tech companies. And when we see a company that not only has a good technology, but has really good work ethic, we want to roll that company up under us. And then we'll give you all of the other things that kind of that are easy to take off your plate, right? Legal, IT, HR, right? It was a centralized service out of Minneapolis, right? Out of Minnesota. Okay. Yeah. So a group called ADX Labs out of Minnesota bought our agency in 2017. I stayed on, loved the company, went up to Minneapolis, checked them out, and said, absolutely. We rebranded to the brand called MobileSoft, and we grew the company and again sold, rebranded it, did some M&A activity, and we sold it again in 2020, 2 weeks before the world shut down. But it was a mobile app company, so they did very well.
Yeah.
Even better. But yeah, by the time we sold it, we had 250,000 mobile apps that ran on Google Play, the Apple App Store, and then we were publishing in China on Tencent, on Wandajiao, on that network as well. So a global footprint for mobile apps. Sold it, and they asked me to stay on and assist with, business development efforts, set up channel sales, right? Do some marketing for all of their other tech brands. And then that's what led me to film and TV. 2021 comes around, and one of the staff attorneys says, hey, there's this company in Tampa, Florida that's doing this virtual production stuff, and he sends me a clip on the making of Mandalorian, right? How they shot against the LED walls on Mando and did all that. And he says, they're doing it on the commercial side of things. They're the first commercially available studio in America. So we did. I flew down there. I expected to stay there 2 days. I was down there for 4 days. And I turned around, and instead of coming back to Vegas, I flew to Minneapolis, and I built a PowerPoint presentation right on the plane, right? Yeah. Went to the hotel, checked in, finished my PowerPoint presentation, and I presented. I was fired up. I was passionate. Yeah. Right. And I presented to the board of directors. It just happened to be the board was there the next day in Minneapolis, and said, I think this is the next and greatest technology that we should invest in, which is virtual production. And they immediately came back and said, well, we should build a studio in Vegas. Vegas is the city of entertainment. So we did. We turned what we originally was planned to be a joint venture between the two companies, and then we invested $10 million into View, which was their first major seed round. And we built studios in Nashville, then Vegas, and then also Orlando. We expanded the market. They got into software, and since then, View has done quite a bit in the virtual production world with software and corporate size studios and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, so you've really been on the cutting edge of advancement in the technology space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of almost like first to adapt or to make the change.
Yeah. I've always, this world is rapidly changing all the time. Mm-hmm. And I will point to something that a lot of people have heard before, but they really don't understand, which is the Mamba mentality, right? That Kobe Bryant talked about so much. And that was really, at the end of the day, the Mamba mentality is about continuous process improvement, right? How you can continually better yourself, right? Better yourself to help better others ultimately. But how do you better yourself? How do you look in the lens of better yourself? And I take that from a technology standpoint as well, because, when I looked at the View model and I looked at virtual production, I was like, Vegas is not a film and TV city yet, right? We tried. We'll get there, we'll get there. But when I looked at that, I said, we're going to hit a revenue shortfall because we're not going to be able to book enough movies or commercials in Vegas. The majority of it's in LA, plus the technology is still new. Directors and producers and other people hadn't bought into this workflow yet. But we're a $7.2 billion a year meeting and convention city, right? Massive economic impact. So let's start to throw cool parties, right? Immersive parties. And we had the opportunity to do some really great, immersive product launches, for Google and HTC during CES, right? Throw these really great parties for Sony during NAB, the NAB show. And we looked at how we could utilize a 120-foot LED wall that's 20 feet high and take graphics to another level, right? When we did the Super Bowl press conference in the studio. And I remember the VP of he reports to Goodell, and he's looking at the camera, and there's 9 cameras, but it's a big, it's a Super Bowl press conference for Vegas. And he stops and he looks at the wall and he goes, "This is the coolest press conference I've ever been in my life, and it's in Las Vegas. You guys did it right." And that was just like a moment, because I worked hand in hand with the graphics guy to put the graphics on and the graphics guy did a wonderful job. So it was a really neat experience to be able to look at it in a different lens. Hey, if we're not going to do so many movies, then let's turn this place into a great meeting.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Everything in Vegas is bigger.
Absolutely.
I mean, they do everything. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to make it better than it's done. Well, we're blew through the time here, but I really enjoyed this conversation. This was a lot of fun, and you're fascinating. And congratulations on all the success and the contribution that you're providing here, even in Vegas, to all the different things you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. Awesome, man. Thank you.
Till next time, folks. Power of influence.
Hey guys, if you really like this episode and you want to see similar, you're going to love this one right here. Just click the link.